fine. All right, you ready to jump into it?
Yeah, let's go for it.
Okay, cool. So you messaged me, and we have a session. Seems like you haven't played in a long time, and you recently came back.
Yeah, it's been quite a few years.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of started up about a few weeks ago. Previously, I'd been on the Baroa server when I got kind of merged with Elysium, it looks like, when I got back.
Mm-hmm.
Played on that for a little bit, but I had also done a little bit of time on Reboot, but I thought it was a better time to just fully move over to Reboot because at least regular servers for me, it's just a little bit too much maintenance. There's always a better upgrade if you're not putting money or other forms of funding into it. You're just probably not making it that far.
Yeah, in a way, you're never done on either server, right? It kind of depends on where you on what you want to aim for. I'm usually a very big proponent of like functional upgrades, in the sense that looking at whether an upgrade helps you and sets you up for like future prospect, rather than just because you can. Because then, then everything is on the table, and then any decision making becomes horribly difficult. And I think with non-reboot, you have more options, which can be a little bit, it can give you some peace, because it's like, well, now I don't have to min-max on every single system because there are so many systems. But on the flip side, it's like you get an even more overwhelming feeling of you're never done because everything has so far to go, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I guess you don't really escape it. It's just a different
kind of hell. Yeah. No, just kidding. Kind of a little bit. No, but I get what you mean. Yeah, for me it made the most sense. The whole auction house thing was new for me when I came back. But I mean, I basically had to start over, and if I got to choose to start over on reboot or on non-reboot, it made more sense to me to start on reboot. But yeah, whatever floats your boat, I guess.
Yeah.
So you're here now.
Yeah. So I sorry, I was a little bit late last night. Spent a little bit of time with the wife, so I didn't put anything
How dare you?
major together. Yeah, I know. Well, she's 35 weeks pregnant right now, so
it needs a little bit of attention, probably. Yeah.
Exactly. So yeah, I just threw this together before maintenance this morning. I know Wildhunter isn't really the best, but I came back to it at about 190, 195, so I was just like, let's just push it up, use it as a little bit of a bosser right now. So it probably won't be the long-term main.
Okay.
But I haven't really spent too much time figuring out what that new main's gonna be.
Yeah, we can go into that a bit. So what have you? So you've come back like 2-3 weeks ago, and you just leveled this guy because it was one of the highest level characters in your account, I assume.
I started back on Reboot, I think on Monday. So
Okay.
Wildhunter's up about 206 right now. Probably gonna push him up until 210 just to get the choo-choo stuff and work on some symbols. Can always be turned into at least a little bit of a meal.
Yeah, and I imagine every single character, I mean already right now, but with the right amount of funding and understanding the mechanics of the boss fight, every single character can get to like 210, 215 or something and be able to do all the bosses, probably up to, or like, I like to say including, because if people say like, oh, I can do up to C rate, I never know what that means, up to or including. I never know what they exactly mean. So I would say all the bosses roughly, including probably HMAG at the hardest, which gives you a substantial amount of income. And I don't know to which extent you're familiar with the upcoming changes with Destiny.
I've taken a little bit of a look. I haven't dug into the details too much.
Well, one of the main changes is for Kana that the Kishin is no longer going to increase the spawn or speed up the spawn. That's going to be replaced with an EXP buff instead. So everyone who's trying to grind is basically relegated to the amount of time they have on totems. And of course the Kana was used for people who play a lot, who play way more than the amount of totems they have access to, which probably have to explain to you what totems are as well, because that wasn't the thing before. But basically those have become the new standard. Like once you get used to training with a totem on, which totem basically has the Kishin effect, once you get used to that, training off totem feels absolutely horrible, of course, in comparison. And what's happened a lot of times is that people who played so much would have all of their totems dedicated to a main character and then have a Kana as a side character so that you can basically mimic the effects of the totem and keep increasing the amount of money you make so that you can use that to fund a character. So since that's changing, everyone who wants to scale up past the amount of totems you have access to is essentially making what people are calling boss meals. There's different levels of it, you know, but depending on which bosses you want to kill, you might want to fund your character to a certain point and kind of halt there, and then basically cream off all of the value that they create in terms of boss crystals and such. And we're also expecting the boss crystals to make a significant upgrade with the Destiny update. So at this time, a lot of people are moving away from having the Kana possibly as a funded character and are more looking towards mainly the characters that they got the 200 or the 210 for level 3 link skills to see if they can turn those into either makeshift boss mules or permanent boss mules so that they can start generating the extra revenue past the amount of totems basically from those characters.
Yeah, that makes sense. I had seen that Kishin was gonna go through that nerf, or change, I suppose.
Yeah,
so
either one is fine, I guess.
Yeah, within the next 6 or 7 weeks, I kind of wondered if it would be better to actually boost that Kana up before Kishin does go away because it's easy leveling, or even just use it as a brief meso farmer, but maybe not invest highly in the gear.
Yeah, that could work. I mean, a lot of people are going to have a Kana as a boss mule, mainly because their Kanas are decently high leveled, often the second highest or third highest on their account. So they'll be second or third in line to kill those bosses with as well. Kana has a little bit from the beginning. So when I talk about boss mules, a lot of people are like, what are good boss mules? It really depends on how big your account is. And in big, I mean, like, you know, Legion and Link skills, what you have to rely on. Because that's the main difference with non-reboot. In non-reboot, you can make training gear, you can transfer gear over, right? You can buy specific pieces. In reboot, we can't do that. So basically the way that you fund every character in your account is by building out your Legion and your Link skills, is by leveling characters. That way you have a baseline of funding that you can switch to any character that you're actively playing on. And with the Link skill changes from a while ago, you can move your Link skills up to 10 times per day now each. It starts costing you money after the 4th time though, so you know, don't get too crazy with it because it can increase in price quite a bit. But that does mean that you have more flexible funding, but it takes a while to build up to, of course, because it expects you to have a big Legion of at least 6k.
Yeah. Right now I've been spending, I don't think I've been that efficient with my time, so I've been trying to, I thought that's why this would be a good session, you know, at least, you know, spending the money to actually just get more use out of my time.
For sure.
So what I've done is I've been just doing daily bosses, getting my crystals, getting the world tours, and I've been taking that meso and just expanding my character slots pretty much right now, and then probably gonna get everybody up to like level 60 or so, get an easy 3k Legion or so, and then start working on the Link skills. And I probably haven't been, it's been a little bit more of a grind than it has been like pure fun.
Okay.
But I still enjoy leveling. Like it's not bad, you know, you're still having fun getting your dailies in. But
yeah, you're in the build-up phase, so there's a yeah. If you want to get to that sweet spot, then you're gonna have to wade through the grind a little bit, yeah.
But yeah, I think last time I played was back when they had that like name change for characters that hadn't been logged in for 10 years. So
oh yeah.
Scooped up a bunch of those.
Okay, so now you have Goldfish, Executioner. You got some good names here.
I think I've got like Legion and Spartacus, and you know, a lot of just like good hero and paladin names.
You can go wrong with those. So yeah, we can go through this like kind of one system at a time. I kind of gauge your level of like understanding of the subject and kind of like brush up on what would make sense for like moving forward. Do you have a specific goal in mind that you want to reach, or are you just trying to just generally move forward and just see where it goes?
I think generally move forward right now. Eventually, when I get to a good enough level, I'll probably try to find a guild that I can progress with a little bit, or take part in different non-solo content.
Well, we have a mule guild if you want to start there, and then if you get far enough, you can move up to the main guild if you want to.
Yeah, that might be a nice thing. Maybe towards the end we can talk about who would be a good person to contact over there to get in.
Yeah, sure. We have a command in the chat where you basically fill in like a little questionnaire just with some info, and then you can apply to the guild yourself, and then because the thing is now with guilds it's really weird, but a guild can't invite you. A guild can invite you, but it basically takes you to the application screen, and you still have to apply to the guild. And then your application can be okayed. That's just how it works. It's kind of weird, but yeah. But yeah, we try to give people a little bit of a lower bar to entry. Just like you join the alliance and you can already contact the people, but you don't have like the extreme level but like the higher level of responsibility to do a bunch of stuff. So you can kind of just if you still want to switch characters, you want to switch mains and everything, you can still do that. And once you've really dedicated to a character, usually by the point you get to like level 230 and you're ready for like the Lucid boss fights and stuff like that, then you can move into the main guild, and you get access. We have bigger responsibilities there to participate for flag race and culvert, which gives us skill points, but then you can also use those skill points, which are way higher level, which gives you insane boosts to bossing and to mobbing as well. So they're really helpful.
Yeah, no, that sounds great. And I don't think either of those take that much time, so it's not really.
Yeah, no, it's actually crazy, because like one flag race, if you get a decent result, for the week and you're good with that, that's probably a total of like 5 minutes in the week. And then culvert is a 2-minute run. It will require some setup and stuff, right? Some switching around, but it's probably like 5 minutes as well. So in total, you're losing like 10 minutes out of the week. And the guild skills we have right now is 30% critical damage, 30% boss damage, and 30% damage, and then a little bit of IED. We're slowly getting up to that 4th skill, and you can use them for half an hour on an hour cooldown, so they have 50% uptime each. So it's massive damage.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing.
Yeah, you throw them all together, and boss is just. It's basically like if you would basically more than double your stat. Basically, your damage output will more than double probably just from those metrics. It's pretty sick. Well, maybe not more than double, but they will get a huge. Yeah, you would notice. Okay, yeah, but we can. We mention that later. So I guess one part would be like trying to find a main, maybe a little bit. And then one part would be like going through the systems, and then I don't know if you already have some questions written down. I mean, a lot of them will probably pertain to like, I still have this equipped, should I be replacing this, right? But we'll get to the equips in the end once all of the other stuff makes sense. But I don't know if you have stuff like maybe stuff that you've heard and you're wondering, is this accurate? Should I be doing this, or is there maybe something else that might fit me better?
I wrote down some questions last night.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of them are less equip based. There's a couple of equip questions, but it's more just like game feature, prioritization, being timely.
Right, yeah, time management stuff that's pretty fundamental. We can start there if you want to.
Sure. And even at some point, I'd be a little curious on your opinion for like keyboard settings.
Mm-hmm.
Just because as you get further in the game, there's more skills that unlock your V matrix, and eventually your hands have to do a little bit more of a job than when you start. Yeah,
definitely, yeah. They have been gradually making stuff more into passives early on, because they do realize that there are so many buffs to do that. Yeah, if you're spending half of your time refreshing buffs, then you are not spending that time killing monsters, and that really sucks. That's why later in the game, a lot of people get the skill pet auto buff, so you can teach your skill to refresh your buffs for you, and all 3 of your pets, you can get up to 3 pets, they can all learn it, so up to 6 skills can be refreshed automatically, and that takes a whole lot of weight off of, especially the decent skills, right? Because there's just so many of them that eventually you'll want to have. It takes all of those off the board, and it really cleans up the whole buffing part. But yeah, so that's a little bit pay-to-win kind of thing. But I think once you get to the point that you really know you want to main your character, and you're looking at like 12 buffs that you're constantly refreshing, that might be something that you eventually are like, okay, this is like a one-time expense, and then you can just keep reviving your pets, and they can keep having the skills, and it just kind of makes sense to do that. The problem is, though, it's commitment. Like, once you fall into it, you can never go back. Because if you then switch back to a character that doesn't have it, it's just so annoying. So, but it does clean up your rotations in your map. It cleans up your rates as well. So it does improve your gameplay, I would say, substantially. Especially during bosses. You're not like, oh, my 6 decent skills are all expiring at the same time. Let me find, 15 seconds of the boss not doing anything to... Yeah, you're going to be dying. So you're going to have to stagger them as well, right? Not cluster them together. Yeah, you can play around it for sure, without it, but it helps a lot, yeah, the further you go, like you said.
Yeah, no, definitely agree there.
Mm-hmm.
I've been liquidating mesos from Elysium over to use them.
I see. Yeah.
Points on
Maple
Reboot,
points. Yeah.
So,
Oh yeah. So you have the
So good.
extra Maple Tour entries for a bit.
Yeah, I've got, I don't know, maybe
Wait,
50k Maple points and
Yeah. Okay.
like another 5 bill or so to
Mhm.
turn.
Well, yeah, I want to keep a buffer,
But,
of course, for those pet skills maybe later and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and been kind of just building up the reward points too. I figure
Mm-hmm.
when I get high enough, I'll probably start burning those on totems. Or
Yeah,
other things that
Are you completely
leads.
familiar with the reward points, how to get a good amount, and totems and all that part? Because we did mention that a little bit
pretty
earlier.
familiar.
Okay.
I still do weekly bosses on the Elysium character because I can still go through CRA, and
Mm-hmm.
the guild leader over there will take us through everything. So
Okay.
and then I do my Maple M a little bit,
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Yeah.
So
yeah.
should I just go with questions?
Yeah. Just shotgun them out. Go for it.
Sure. One thing I was kind of curious. Do you know if MapleStory has any like interability presets or something in the works? Because
Yeah, it's something I want.
It'd be nice. Yeah.
I would love it.
I kind of thought that was the case.
Yeah, no, they have mentioned it in Korea a few times now that the players do want it. The last live talk that was actually released earlier this week, they basically replied that it is something that they will eventually want to do, but they are still working. The interability was always kind of horrible with like too much variance, too many shit lines, bad rates. They have cleaned up the interability a lot in the last year and a half, or in the last 2 years, especially after the stuff came out, right? That there was different connections. Basically, people found out recipes in interability where if you put certain lines in, you could increase your chances from like 1 in a million to like 1 in 3 or something to hit certain lines. And once they figured that out, that and the fact that the flames were also connected, that if certain lines existed, other lines would have a higher level of prevalence. They basically came out and said, like, we didn't even know properly how our code worked, and it's apparently we were lying the whole time, and we said that it was totally random when it wasn't, because there was interconnection, and then we had, all of the compensation, and then begging for players to come back that all had left for Lost Ark. So since then, they have been cleaning up the interability a lot, removing bad interabilities, increasing the rates, tier up changes, the color changes, so you can actually see what tier it is more easily, right? So you have some better feedback there. But they basically said that they are still working on cleaning up the interability first, the way that it is now, to make it easier for people to get the good interabilities. And then after that, they might consider the preset thing. So, fingers crossed for soon. I'm still stuck with my my farming or my training interability on my Ark. And I've been sitting on 10 million, like the max honor experience, for probably like 2 years now. And I can't get any more, and it's all being burned. So I hope that we get those presets soon so I can actually make one for bossing myself.
No, I definitely agree. Yeah, I happened to get that meso on the Wildhunter yesterday, and I'm like, well, it's not really the farming character I want, but I also don't have enough EXP that I'm going to end up with anything better.
Yeah, and if you're not even sure how far you're going to take the character, and you don't need attack speed like the Wildhunter doesn't, then Mezzo is pretty much always a very safe bet. It's probably the best one you can have, because you're just going to make more money the whole way through. You're going to be able to afford those character slot expansions more easily, make more characters, build up your Legion faster. It's just going to accelerate the growth of your account. So this is a perfectly fine interability.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't mind the Wildhunter right now.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little bit different. I don't know if it feels a little clunky to me, doing your normal boss rotation while also keeping your pet skills going.
Mm-hmm.
Like little nuances, like I think like the down arrow when you're summoning your V matrix, like pet multiple pet ability.
Mm-hmm.
But no, it's still fun.
Yeah, it's something they added recently because the variance of where the Jaguars would show up was too big, and it would make the burst very inconsistent. So they made it so that it spawns like closer to the target, right? Like fewer that do more damage with the down arrow, I believe. And then they're closer on top of the target, so you can confirm your damage more easily. Now, you do have a self-bind, that's always nice for characters, especially if you're looking at bossing mules, because you're essentially just getting a matrix slot out of it, which early on are pretty scarce, and you want to get all those important skill nodes in there to optimize your damage, so that is a little bit of a bonus.
Yeah. No, it's still pretty fun, though. I'm honestly not that great at it. Hopefully, I'll be spending time to rework keyboards on everything. Probably figure out where I want to like do buff bars and
Yeah, that was another
build some
question you had, right?
consistency.
Like key configuration. I don't know if you included a picture, but no, you didn't. Okay.
No, I didn't. It's pretty much just like the basic setup. I've done like a lot of my buffing skills on like insert through page down,
Yeah.
but I don't think I want to keep it there. I think I probably want to bring it up to like the number bar.
Yeah.
And then
That's
just,
where I
like,
recently
short
moved mine
cooldown,
as well.
long cooldown.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the things I usually talk about is what I found helps for me a lot, especially if you have a character that uses a lot of different attacking skills. So probably not the Wildhunter, right? Because you just hold down, especially when you're mobbing, you just hold down the Hurricane skill and then you lob out the bombs, and that's pretty much it, right? But if you have a lot of attacking skills, what I usually advise people is to just kind of like hold out your hand in just relaxed form. Because for some people it'll pretty much be stretched, and for some people it'll be almost like a fist, right? But just hold it out in how it's relaxed for you, and then just basically put it on the keyboard, and then just see which buttons are already covered, and then put the most used skills there, because that'll be like your resting position, and if you use those keys the most, you'll have the least amount of deviation from your normal hand position, and I think you'll be able to go to the longest without feeling strain and feeling hurt in your hand. That's usually what I do. When it comes to the right hand, so I don't know what type of keyboard you have, but a lot of times people are like, oh, you have to put this here, you have to put this here. People have different hand sizes, people have different finger lengths, people have different keyboards, people, you know. It's basically experience, but I would say don't be afraid to just change your key configuration. You like do an hour of training, and you're like, this feels really fucking horrible, just move it around. And just keep moving it around until it doesn't feel weird anymore. I think with my arc in the beginning, I probably moved my keys around like 10 times until I found the fit that was like, okay, this feels good. I can do this for a long period of time. And then, you know, after a while, muscle memory just sets in and it takes over, and you don't have to really think about things anymore. Only when you're doing certain bosses, and I know with Wildhunter, bossing and mobbing is very different, right? You have a lot of an extra set of skills and everything that you have to use. I haven't gotten to Wildhunter yet for my CRA rotation, but I'm kind of dreading it because I've never used any of those skills. I don't even know what half of them do, because I just held down the Hurricane skill and and used the AoE whenever it was available, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah, it's definitely not my favorite character, but it was just a character of convenience coming back. But I've watched some videos. I've seen some good people clear good content, so it can be done. But yeah, I'll probably take a look at that, see what works, and especially when you're working on a bunch of different characters, it's nice to have some form of consistency, so you don't have the jump key on 3 different keys for different characters. Yeah,
so what I usually do is like my control key, that's usually when like my pinky does like shift and control. Sometimes my ring finger, I guess, does shift. But so control key used to be my main attacking key, but I moved that away to A instead and use my ring finger for that. And then control key is a skill that I use like second most usually. And shift is where I have my iframe, because it's like really close, but it doesn't actively have a finger on it, so I can't really accidentally press it, but I can really quickly press it either with my index finger or with my with my ring finger or with my pinky, so I can reach it very quickly. And then I still jump on alt, because that's just how I've done it for like 30,000 hours, and that's never gonna change. My spacebar is usually a cooldown AoE, so I try to have like, and then the main attacking keys are on like so ASD, F is usually my bind, and then Q is usually my like a third type skill, I guess, that I also need pretty close, but I use like the third most. And then, like you said, I did move my buffs up to like 1 through 5. And then 5 is usually the will skill, because every class has that as well, so I try to have that on the same button for everyone. And then move my chats to the other side, so I still have those on keys, but you can also elect to use the chat bar itself for that. Some people like to use the F keys as well. I still, you know, I'm very used to having the faces there, so, you know, maybe in like 3 years I'll move that around, but I'm old and change is scary to me, so, you know, one thing at a time for me. But a lot of the preset keys I will move away, especially out of the left side of the computer, so on the left side of the keyboard. Yeah, like I've started moving the W away as well, so W is available now. I still have E for equipment, but other than that, I have like, I still have looting on Z, but I should probably move that away as well, because it also works on the insert key on your right hand, right next to the, at least if you have a full keyboard, right next to your arrow keys.
Yeah.
Like your
I've got
pinky
like
could
a,
loot as well if you want to.
yeah, I've got like a Razer gaming keyboard
Mm-hmm.
back in my WoW days.
I see. With all like
Um,
600 extra keys on the side, or
you know, maybe like 300. You know, it's
okay,
average.
yeah.
But yeah, my normal desktop could probably use an upgrade, but just got a new laptop last week.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm doing upgrade myself. But yeah, like you said, is very true. Especially if you're going to be rolling through Legion and you have a lot of different characters, find like a key where a certain like main attack, secondary attack, general buffs. Usually like the regular buffs, I still put in a macro and put on insert, and then usually delete through page down, or either longer duration buffs or our burst setup skills with like 2, 3, 4 minute cooldowns sometimes. So that I do use those, but I use them like all in one go with my right hand while I'm setting up for burst, and then then I don't use that for a while, and then the regular buffs that need to be redone I run like 1 through 4. But again, yeah, as you get pet auto buff and stuff like that, then you start creating a lot of space on your keyboard, and then you can kind of move things around more freely.
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah, I was thinking about what my main was. I just seemed to see if I wanted to actually continue that over on Reboot, but I almost feel like I'm a glutton for punishment between the Wildhunter and the Kaiser.
Top tier characters, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if I want to continue with Kaiser or not. It's not that I consider it bad, but maybe not.
Well, you like what you like. That's
like,
one thing,
Yeah.
And if you play what you like, you'll have fun. And like you said before, you are already feeling like the fun is kind of slipping away with working on Legion as much. So having a character that you really enjoy and that is fun for you to be able to, dip into whenever that fun is being taken away from you with the Legion growth, that is a good thing to do, because this is a marathon, not a sprint. And if you don't really like your character and you like logging in and like playing your character, you're not going to get very far, even if that character is on like the top 3 pick on whatever tier list somebody makes. If you take a top character because it's on a tier list, but then you just don't enjoy playing it, you're not going to get that far. You're not going to get you're going to get places, and you'll have certain perks for sure, but you're not going to enjoy and want to log in, and that's just going to reverberate negatively.
Yeah, definitely.
So I guess in the characters that you do like playing, you say you go out for punishment, but what do you feel is the stuff that you naturally gravitate towards in the gameplay? Like, what do you enjoy?
I would say mobility is definitely a big thing. It just keeps it fun. Not a huge mage player in general. I don't know if it's just the teleport feature that I would prefer a flash jump.
Until you get to certain boss fights and you're like, oh god, I wish I had a teleport now. That's why Kaiser might be nice, because you've got both, right?
Yeah, no, that is nice. And I guess with the Matrix, everybody can get a teleport, everybody can get a bind. I don't think everybody can get an iframe.
No.
Iframe is...
Everyone can get an iframe, but it's liberated Genesis weapon for some people. Or the Kerr ring, which is like a special ring that you can get through content in the game, which is like I think a 3-minute cooldown, 10-second iframe. But then, you lose a ring slot, so it does come at a price. But for some classes, like for a Night Lord or something, if that means committing your whole spread throw burst, then that's definitely worth it.
Yeah, so I guess warrior classes, thief classes, not a huge bowman class. Wildhunter, a little bigger kind of iron.
Yeah,
there.
maybe.
Yeah, I don't know if it's just the hurricane that's. It's not even that it's like brain dead or anything, because there still is a lot of rotation within it. But I also haven't gotten to bosses that really require that much extra thought.
For sure.
I don't know that I'd consider CRA to have that many mechanics in general, compared to some of the higher bosses, at least. Like,
yeah, CRA, a lot of it is just like jump away from it at the right time and you're good,
Don't get hit with the bad stuff.
Yeah, it gets more difficult if you're trying to like limit test, and if you know the mechanics in and out and you know your character, but you're just purposefully keeping your character very weak, then it does take more and more skill, because you're going to have to really be super opportunistic for every single moment where you can squeeze in some damage, and then mechanical skill will definitely help a lot. But yeah, a lot of people will just overfund and then circle back to the content and then just kind of nuke it. and any kind of subtleties of mechanics are kind of lost on that. Yeah, and it's content that is very easy to do that for. You can't really just be like, oh, I'm just gonna like completely overfund past a Lucid engine, just solo it. The amount of time invested there is significant, so you do have to engage with the mechanics in some way.
Yeah. I guess in my mind right now, I do have an Adele built or ready to be built that I'm thinking of doing. You know, fun's always relative, so you try to just trying to like get people's opinion of why they find it fun. But I'll be leveling anyways for Legion, so I can always kind of make that decision.
Yeah.
But yeah, thought a little bit of Night Lord, thought a little bit of Night Walker. Just kind of brings back some of the old memories.
The star throwing, Dexless sauna robe wearing.
Yeah. Visually, there's a lot of nice things nowadays. We've got revamps coming for both of them, I think, in kind of near history, or, you know, coming up.
Near future, yeah. Yeah, with the Destiny update. Nightlord is very solid, especially bossing-wise, pops off very early. Mobbing-wise is a bit, you know, it's a bit squishy early on, and the mobbing doesn't really pop off until you get decent funding and the Assassin's Marks can start doing decent damage. Once that happens, though, then, you know, you're home free for quite a while. You just, you know, turn your brain off, just jump attack, and you're good. You know, throw in some AoEs if you're feeling fancy, and you're golden. And you've got the whole path into endgame like laid out for you. Everyone wants you in a party. You've got the hugest dick when it comes to burst, so you know nobody's nobody's gonna be ragging on your BA or anything like that. The problem is the off burst is lesser, but since the focus is so hard on bursting during the bind, that is where you shine, and you know where the game gives the most value to the players, honestly. So that's what makes the most sense to emphasize as well.
Yeah, when the burst is over, they're probably just like, go dark side in the corner and grab a drink.
Some people do that, yeah. You can still do okay damage, of course, and the more you're funded, and you have some, you know, some stronger fifth job skills that you can throw in, but comparatively, that's not too far from the truth, yeah.
Yeah. I have been watching you play Ark a little bit. Look forward to trying that at some point. Sorry, it's away from my own progression, but just a question. I think you mentioned that the Demon Avenger is a second main for you, or something you might look to get back towards.
Yeah, that was my first main character when I started in Reboot, probably like 6 years ago now. And it was, I liked it. It was fun. A lot of people were like, why are you playing it? Because they had apparently recently gotten a really big nerf compared to where they were just before I started playing. So like comparatively to everyone, it was shit now, but I still liked it. Plus, it was very tanky, and back then, the emphasis was way more on early bosses that did a lot of damage. So if you have that much HP, you don't have to worry about any survivability. You have lifesteal built into your kit. You didn't need any potions, so that saved a lot of money. You know, this is all from, like, a different era, you know. This is before Legion existed. This is, you know, old Kishin, old Kishin that was way better than even the totems now. You could just leech people by just being in your party, like they didn't have to do anything, you know. This was a very different game. This is back when I made an HP Kana on my second account, because then, you know, I could drag it along with me and it would just survive all the hits, you know. Very different time. But basically when Fifth Job came out and the V-Matrix, and when they started with one skill and they kind of like built it up over time to 2, 3, 4 skills, and they added the other different skills, DA just kept getting left in the dirt, basically. All of our kit didn't really interact properly. It would kill yourself. You wouldn't really have an iframe. Your damage would go up with lower HP, but you also would not be able to heal, so you just died everything. It was very, very weird, and every other character was just surpassing it. And every single thing in the game would deal percentage HP damage, which actually ended up hurting the DA because potions would only heal you as if your HP went up to 100,000. So you would actually get less of your percentage HP back, even from power elixirs, rather than other characters. So your survivability was garbage because they were still potion cooldown with the same limited timer, right? And, you know, so you were basically getting punished for having high HP, plus no scaling into the higher potentials, and, you know, bad scaling off of flames and everything when those came out. So it just didn't make much sense to stay with the character. I gave it a good shot, like I even gave it like an arcane weapon and everything, but I kind of parked it at, okay, well, this character is just going to be doing hard bosses, you know, hard lucid, hard will runs, and I'm going to look around. And arc I didn't really like that much in the beginning. I thought it was too many cooldowns, too many buttons, way more complex than Demon Avenger, of course, because Demon Avenger had like 2 keys and that was it. So I was used to a way more simple character. But like I said, you know, with the keys and moving stuff around, eventually it grew on me and muscle memory kicked in. You don't have that many buffs. That's really nice because the buffs are like a secondary effect from the main attacking skills. So as long as you cycle through the main attacking skills, the buffs automatically apply. And really, the only buffs you have is a toggle in the beginning. You just turn it on one time. And then you have your regular booster and your Maple Warrior. And that's pretty much it all the way until the decent skills and 5th job hit. So that actually took away a lot of the complexity. And, you know, once I saw the damage potential of the arc compared to where my DA was at, I was like, yeah, it just blows it out of the water. And there's so much room for growth still. So yeah, then it completely skipped it. Now with the upcoming changes in Destiny that we see and the increased performance in Korea, and that touches a little bit on what you said about the Hurricane skills, is that Hurricane skills and Demon Avenger basically are turning the Frenzy, like the main 5th job skill, into kind of a Hurricane effect around you as well, instead of something that just every now and then creates a spots on the floor, then hopefully something walks into it. Now it's more like a proximity damage around you, very much more similar to the Lord of the Deep of the Buccaneer. Ever since those changes, it seems like in Korea, the Demon Avengers have done so well. They've gone from like bottom 2 to I think top 3, possibly top 2, where they're at now. But they mainly look at dojo rankings, so DPM characters have a big benefit there. But they're basically looking at Fire, Poison, Dark Knight, and Demon Avenger as their top 3 after not necessarily the Destiny changes, but the extra changes that come right after Destiny. But even with the Destiny changes, said DA was already doing very well. But like I mentioned, it is a Hurricane skill though, so because we have more attack speed on GMS, that tends to kind of outscale the things that are Hurricane skills because those have a limited amount of hits over time. So I think the impact won't be as crazy for us as it was over there, but I imagine it's still pretty significant because, I mean, I've seen the changes on paper and it's quite massive. The utility, the survivability, and the extra damage. So I'm kind of reaching the point now on my arc where every next upgrade is so monumentally expensive that I don't really care for min-maxing that much. I can do all the content in the game. I just lack like mechanical skill and desire to actually, you know, go out there and do it. I'd rather bring up another character now because my main character is now almost 280, and my second highest is 252. So there's a huge gap there, and it would be nice to have another character in my account that can kind of fill up that position. So I think the DA deserves some love.
Yeah, no, that'll be nice, and it's nice to watch them kind of recycle back to improving classes than adding more.
Yeah, I agree, and a lot of people have echoed that sentiment. Yeah.
All right. Yeah, so I'm pretty familiar with up to like Lotus content. I haven't done Lotus on my Kaiser, but I'm familiar up like Lachelin. I think that's how you say it.
Yeah, people say it a lot of different ways. I don't care.
Yeah. Make sure I can at least pronounce words.
Yeah.
I think another good question is just broad level on gearing. I knew up through Flames. I understand how Flames work right now. I kind of understand that there's a tier system, and I believe that there's even a calculator to, you know, put your values in, and it'll spit out, you know, whether it's good, medium, or worth keeping.
Yeah, we've got another calculator as well that kind of is like, okay, what if I want to go to this value? How much is that going to cost roughly? So there's like 2 different ones, that can help you. Yeah,
and your resources are phenomenal. So I mean, the community thanks you.
You're welcome.
When you go about, or like when I were to go about setting up like a new piece of gear, like one of the random guilds I joined yesterday, somebody did offer to do like a 3-door carry through CRA. So while I'm not looking for carries, but if somebody offers it, I've experienced the content, so I don't mind not shooting myself in the foot and actually just getting a little bit stronger. So
in non-reboot, you mean, right? You've done the whole thing there.
Yeah, non-reboot, I have done it myself, so I'm familiar with the content. I don't feel bad getting a little bit of a boost up in reboot. Sure. But I'm also not seeking it out, not spagging for carries or anything. When you go about building a piece of gear, I would think that you'd probably start with like one of the 140 pieces, or like a good necro piece or something, and get it to epic, probably star it up, then transfer it. And then I guess I don't know like the progression of how you would make a piece of gear without wasting a excess mesos or
Mm-hmm.
worry about blowing it up at a high star or something.
Right. So, well, one thing I did mention before, like the base level of funding that I think is the most important is your Legion and your Links. And depending on how much you can rely on that, that will basically dictate how heavy you need to go into every single piece of equipment, because it'll dictate how quickly you can grow, how much damage you need from those pieces, and how quickly you can grow will dictate your access to the new pieces and whether it makes sense to go very hard. So one of the major determining factors in this is transfer hammer and how that works, right? Are you familiar with the intricacies of that system?
I think a portion of it, definitely not as much as some of the more experienced players, but
Mhm.
I believe that the potential up to epic can be transferred. Anything above that will just get reduced to epic.
Mm-hmm.
It reduces 1 star when you're going up.
Mm-hmm.
And then the flame on the weapon being transferred to remains, but the lower items goes away.
Yeah, the flame on the target item stays, yeah. But one of the main things is that you have, above level 100, you have 10 levels in between to transfer over, right, at the max. So this means that every single piece you're looking at in terms of, since we don't have trade, right, and since this is the only way to kind of transfer value that you're investing, is like, what is the next step in the evolution of this piece of equipment, and will I be able to maintain some of the value? If you can maintain a large chunk of the value, that gives you the green light to invest more, especially if there's like an event going on and you can capitalize on it. We can look at like the 3 systems separately, right, at Flames, at Starforce, and at what's the other one? Potential. For Flames, honestly, in the beginning, I always say, like, don't like invest in Flames. If you can get Flames from an event shop, it's probably nice, but I also wouldn't put it at too high of a priority in the beginning of the game. You're going to do bosses, you're going to get Flames there. There are going to be like events that just give Flames and you can't really choose. Eventually you're going to get Flames, but since Flames don't transfer over, it is typically something I would say, like, don't worry about too much. The only thing I would probably worry about Flames is if you're keeping an item for a long time and if you're not going to be transferring it over. So if you're pretty much in the beginning stages, probably once you get a Fafnir weapon, you're probably going to keep that for quite a while. And the weapon is high priority, so there I would use your Flames, but I still wouldn't really buy too many, but I would use any Flames that you have on those pieces. Second part is probably going to be like your Tyrant Cape, and your CRA gear, because you're going to keep it for a long time. Tyrant Cape won't transfer over, so that's going to get lost either way. And depending on how good it is, you might not even want to get into an Abzo Cape, because change of the set bonus, and like a 17 Abzo Cape isn't that amazing. And if you can actually get lucky on a Tyrant Cape, that you might actually save needing the upgrade to the Abzo Cape, you might actually straight jump up to an Arcane Cape way later. And any kind of...
No, definitely.
Yeah. And for CRA, it's because you keep CRA and you Starforce right on the CRA. It doesn't transfer into anything. So that means when it blows up, you know about traces and how that works when you boom gear?
Yeah.
Yep. So you keep the flame in the trace, so that way it maintains as well. So anything that's going to maintain their flame, that's where you prioritize, and everything else, a lot of the other stuff either cannot get flames or it doesn't have flame advantage, which means that the value of your flames that you throw in there is going to be garbage anyway. So you can safely just kind of ignore those when it comes to flames, all the way until you get into like full Abzo gear, basically. And then you can start worrying more about Abzo flames and stuff like that. When it comes to star forcing, I think a lot of times you just get things to like 10 or 11, and then you just sit on that until most of your gear is looking at probably like your accessories, and this kind of depends on like how you plan to make your money and whether you're committed to your character. But essentially, that once your potentials have been properly invested into, you start looking for the Sunny Sundays on when the Star Force discounts are, and then you use those discounts to get an event. The benefit of this is that you'll have a little bit more time to get backups, so that if there is a chance of booming, you don't have the risk, right? And the other thing is that you just can get so much more value out of potential percentage-wise, because star forcing really only starts getting really nice once you can get past 15. But getting to 15 is disproportionately expensive. So anywhere between, like, if someone has like 14-star gear and you have 10 or 11-star gear, there's no difference there. The other difference is that the other person either got lucky or spent way too much money. If you're gonna go past 11, you better be willing to commit and have enough money to go all the way to 15. And you only do that if you have the money and are willing to commit to go all the way to 17. Otherwise, that's not worth it either. The efficiency just isn't there. So since that's such a big jump, it makes more sense to go for the potential first. So I guess then we get to the potential. The main thing there is that you want your weapon, your secondary, and your emblem to have a lot of the damage because they disproportionately add more damage to your entire account than all the other pieces. Because of percentage attack, percentage magic attack, and percentage ID and boss damage that you can, increase your boss damage with by a lot. Your weapon, so you have to be a little bit careful depending on how quickly you progress. You could move and transfer hammer your weapon from Fafnir into Abzalab. So depending on how quickly you progress, whether you're getting carries or something, that's something you have to take into account. For secondary, typically you go for epic, maybe unique on the starting sub-weapon, and then if there is the Princess Snow weapon that that is best in slot for you and that you are close to, then you basically keep whatever you have now and then you just level up the Princess Snow on the side. That way you can get the benefits of just being able to donkey roll, without downgrading your current setup. And only when you have a decent upgrade, then do you switch over. And then emblem is the main reason is that it basically sticks with you forever. You have the old emblem now, so you probably want to look into the just regular level 100 emblem, mainly because, the base stats are probably a little bit weaker on that thing. No, they're probably higher as well. But the main thing is that because of the higher tier of... the higher level, you get a higher tier of potential. So your rate of return for the same amount of investment, because you're using the same cubes, is just going to be higher. And emblem basically stays with you all the way until eventually you might want to replace it once you kill Seren. So that's the boss like months after Black Mage, So that's just such a huge investment, both in efficiency, both in types of stat, and in duration, that it's just brain dead leagues ahead of everything else. So once those three are good, you basically want to rely on the damage of those pieces and then of your nodes, through the matrix, and of your symbols by doing your dailies. And that wants to be carrying your entire damage. And once that's carrying your damage, it'll get supplemented by stuff like your CRA, Tyrant Cape, maybe some Abzo gear if that comes into play. But those things will just be like epic, and like 10 or 11 star. And that's kind of like where they'll stay. The main focus at that point shifts towards your accessories to try to improve your utility. And that's when you want to get the drop rate and the Meso-Obtain in. So you'll check like ! drop rate, has like the full explanation on why we want to even get that and how much you want to reach on everything. And that's when you want to start increasing your income. Your kill speed won't take a hit, right? Because you're not even downgrading your accessories. You're probably upgrading them because they were probably epic before. From epic to legendary, they maintain their stat, but they increase the utility. Your equipment is going to slightly keep getting better. Your nodes are going to keep getting better. Your arcane power is going to keep getting better, and you will slowly keep getting stronger without losing kill speed. And if you do lose kill speed, that means you stay in a lower level area a little bit longer until you can move on to the next one, right?
Probably not worth overly investing if it's not going to give you an upgrade.
Yeah, exactly. Sure. And that's another thing. Like if you roll a really nice potential on unique, that means you just keep unique. A lot of people, or like you roll really good epic, then you just keep epic. A lot of people like to be like, but it's not yellow, but it's not green. It's like, yeah, okay, but you can spend a lot of money to get the same that you have now or less. Are you willing to roll for what's more, and you have the money to roll for what's more than you have now? Then you can commit. If you're not, then don't. So the main thing is that the drop rate and the accessory stuff will come in, your Legion will have grown, you'll have more access to Legion coupons, and then that combination with totems and maybe with wealth acquisition potions, if you jump into those, will increase your income so much that you can then start making that jump from 11 or 12 stars all the way up to 17, plus it'll give you time to get those equips in the first place that you want to make those jumps with. And that's when the transfer hammer comes into play. So like say that you have like 10, 11 star, Abzalab, like a few pieces, maybe you got some carries here and there, and they have epic potential, and there's an event coming on, you can also start preparing fodder like level 150 gear. So I wouldn't do 140, because the fewer fodder jumps you have to do, the better and the more efficient. And there is 150 gear that you can find for foddering. There's Ramaru gear, there's there's the Zakum capes, there's the shoe and glove, and all of this is explained in the Transfer Hammer video as well, and like which pieces you can look for, and at which stages of the game you can look for them. And once you've gathered those up and you see a Star Force event coming up and you saved up all this money because, you know, you've been biding your time for an event, then you can go hard, make those jumps, make those upgrades, end up with a 17-star Absolab, and then you can commit. You can do a little bit more flames, you can work on the potential a bit more, because those are the pieces you're going to keep for a while longer. Plus, you're not going to be transfer hammering anywhere over, because there's no level 170 gear, there's nothing like that. The next jump is 200, so since the next jump is 200, the bosses are way harder, so you need way more damage, which means you're going to need to maximize your current pieces a bit more, which is realistic, therefore you can invest higher into them, basically. And that's around that point, you're going to start dissolving your, well, not dissolving, but like your drop rate in your meso set is going to separate completely from your damage set, and that's usually around that point where the boss accessory system, the boss accessory set that you've probably used up to that point is going to be dissolving into just becoming drop in meso gear, and is mostly going to get replaced with the Sweetwater stuff and the superior stuff, which you have like a lot of pieces of already. So that's usually around the time when you have like everything 17. Hopefully you have a Dominator pendant by then. You can transpose it into the Sweetwater pendant. So, you know, CRA, no, sorry, not CRA, the Sweetwater stuff, hopefully done the Commercy prequest. Hopefully you've leveled up your boat by then, and then everything kind of moves together in one unit.
Yeah, right now, I kind of realized when I came back that the Sweetwater weapon drop rate seemed to be quite a bit higher. So,
well, they've come out of officially and said that that's not true. You just got lucky. Just everyone ever since that change got ridiculously lucky all the time. You know.
Yeah, 8 out of 10 runs a day.
Yeah, it's insane, but okay.
But yeah, and I do have the superior ring and earrings, so. There was a Star Force event, I think it was like 2 for 1 the other day, so I think I spent like 150 million and I got like 6 items to 12 stars, so again, you know, maybe it was naive, maybe it was okay, but it gave a little
no, it's
boost.
fine, it's fine.
I haven't invested too much in the Sweetwater weapon. It does have a flame, I think it's just like a low attack, but it doesn't seem to get flames like other pieces of gear, so no, it's terrible. It's just luck. But yeah.
What's what I talked about with the flame advantage? The Sweetwater stuff does not have flame advantage, which just basically means that the tiers, what you mentioned, possible tier outcome is 1 tier lower, or is it even 2 tiers lower? 1 tier lower, I think. Plus the plus the amount of lines that you get that roll tiers goes from like a guaranteed 4 to anywhere from 1 to 4. So the variance is all over the place, and they're very low tier for flaming as a result. The main thing is that the Sweetwater weapon is like definitely the best weapon you can get up until you can kill CRA. Once you kill CRA, it's a brain dead switch to Fafnir because it does have flame advantage. It possibly transfers over into Absolab. Plus, it gives you that 4 set bonus with the CRA pieces, which is an extra 30% boss damage, right? The base attack might be a little bit lower because you're going from level 160 to 150, but all the other benefits outweigh it so heavily, especially once you look into the calculator and you look into the average result of flames on flame advantage items like Fafnir, and it just knocks any possible Sweetwater benefit out of the water very easily.
Do you know if a lot of people go to Absolab weapons, or would they maybe like have a 17-starred Fafnir and go straight to Arcane?
It would definitely depend on their trajectory and like how they're moving on up. If they're getting like full carried and it's their 3rd or 4th character on their account, they're definitely just completely skipping up. So yeah, there's no fucking reason. You have to do all of those weeklies, annoying weeklies, to get points and to transfer them over between your characters, to get the coins, to buy the item from the shop. They'll either get carries on Hard Lotus and Hard Damien to see if they can get the weapon drop straight up and then use that temporarily, or they'll straight try to join. I mean, yeah, they'll have hookups of people who just do Hard Lucid and Hard Will super fast and then just try to get it for a weapon drop. And if they don't, they'll have at most probably, what is it, like 8 weeks of getting carried and then just buy the weapon for the character themselves. But that's, again, that is because they don't need to make that intermittent jump, because they have a huge legion and they have all the link skills, right? And they have a lot of money that they can use to hyper invest into the secondary and the emblem immediately, and that can carry their account, those pieces together. That can get them up to that kill speed. Even if they go for the utility on the equips, they can maintain that kill speed, so they don't need as much damage from their individual piece of the weapon, so they can afford to do that. It's not because like the upgrade isn't necessary, but for them it's not necessary.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And especially if you're making like boss meals, and if you're only going to bring them up to like CRA, you probably don't need to be doing those weeklies. I guess it depends on where you want to push them to. Maybe my main, I would do those weeklies. They're not very fun. But
yeah, if a character is specifically a boss mule, that means that you want to be able to do that optimally. So in a sense, you have a certain amount of time in your head, like I want to be able to do this type of content in this amount of time. And as soon as you can do that, you immediately stop all investment and you start just taking back the money that it makes. And that's what a Kana farmer was before as well, right? Like you'd look at how much damage do I need to kill well, to maybe to one-shot, you know, to cover a map, and to get as much money as possible. And once you tick all those boxes, you stop investing anything into it, and all the money just goes out after that point.
Yeah. What I found out yesterday is I did not realize that Singapore had been removed from the game.
Yep.
So
Malaysia, Singapore.
Still happens to have still have the badge on this guy.
Yep.
So that's, I guess, kind of a plus. Are most people just going for Crystal Venus badges from, or
Ventus.
From, like,
yeah, Crystal Ventus badge. Yeah, that's it helps in the beginning because you get the set bonus, so that's kind of like a deal sweetener. But yeah, that's basically the one that you can get. And then later on in the game, people try to go for the Black Mage badge, because hopefully by then you've got some pitched boss pieces, and that set bonus will definitely do way better, because like I said, right around when you're going for 17 stars and everything, you kind of phase out the boss accessory stuff. So at that point, you have the Crystal Ventus badge, probably the Pink Holy Cup, and then you might keep one piece somewhere if you want to keep the set bonus, but mostly you phase all of that out. So you're basically left with two pieces there, no set bonus. So it's Black Mage badge is the next stop, yeah, which is pretty rare.
A couple just kind of generic questions, more just like shotgun style. Familiars, monster badges, and monster collections look to have had some changes. Do you invest much time in that, or do you see much benefit? Familiars, of course. Monster badges, probably. I didn't know on like monster collection at all.
So monster collection was something that was quite important to get your reward points up. It was basically daily, weekly bosses, monster collection, and Maple M. And as you got strong enough and did enough of the bosses, maybe on enough characters, you could kind of phase out Maple M or monster collection, you know, whichever you thought it was most annoying. But most people would like phase out Maple M because they wouldn't need it anymore. They were able to cap within the month anyway without it. But what they have done recently is they have increased severely the amount of reward points you get from weekly bosses. Not only have they increased the amounts we already got, but they have added rewards to a lot of the bosses that previously didn't have them. To where at this point, I do my monster collection regularly, and I have 4 slots available with 24-hour bonuses. But I don't do Maple M. I just do the pick up the daily, weekly bosses one and do the monster collection. And I'm usually capped like 50,000 reward points for the month around like the 16th of the month or the 17th of the month or something. So I almost have like a whole month available. I'm pretty sure if I didn't do monster collection at all, I still do it for the trade boost potions though, because I'm like slowly trying to build up the traits on all my characters as well, because they're just passively in the background anyway, so I don't bother as much or don't worry about it as much. With just doing dailies and weeklies on the amount of characters that I do, that would already be enough to cap for the month. So if you feel like monster collection is something you kind of have to go out of your way for, as long as you're doing Maple M and you keep doing a decent amount of bosses, you will get close to or very close to being able to cap, and monster collection can kind of be an afterthought. Some people want to do it like, like a Pokédex, like gotta catch them all. But I think it has lost its prominence that it once had because of the rework of the weekly bosses, honestly.
Yeah. No, that's good to hear. And with the explorations, I imagine I'm going to be spending enough time in Vanishing Journey and Choo-Choo and so forth that those will come in time. And they're probably...
for sure. They will just randomly pop up, yeah.
Familiars, I know a little bit about. I guess at this point I could probably get some like 15% IED ones or some just like little epic ones to get me by.
Yeah. Have you gone through the familiar command that I have with the info there?
I don't think I have. Sorry, I found you a couple days ago, and I'm just like, you know what?
How dare you, not having read through everything yet? Come on. There's only like 200 commands.
Yeah.
A whole Bible of info, yeah. Basically, I have all the familiar guide that I have is basically first just like all of the numbers. So like if you need to know like how many points does this give, you know, just basically just the brass tacks, just the details. And then there's some advice on some of the system works, like how does the summon gauge work, you know, like what helps you, how can you increase the summon gauge, that can be important, especially if you're playing longer sessions. Typically, even with like shitty familiar setups, you roughly have like, I think you have almost 2 hours of your familiar badge, of your familiar gauge, so that's not too much problem there. If you start doing like multi-totems, or if you're playing very, very long and have your familiars out the whole time, you might want to look into that a little bit more. It also talks about the badges, so that like as an extension, and I guess that gets to your third question for the point here. It talks about the familiar shop, it talks, and then it has like a list of advice, and then some resources on the bottom. So the extra resources here is like all of the possible outcomes for all of the different tiers, so you can see like which lines are potentially good to get, but that is mentioned here as well. So basically in the beginning, it's transfer all of your cards that you get from Legion all to any character you care about, reveal them all, and keep anything with healing, drop rate, IED. So ideally you want to get like increases drop rate from rare if you can, and then IED from rare or common. That's basically the main things. If you can get that, then you're golden and you don't really have to worry about the other stuff. You can extract all the bad ones. You can keep a buffer for, so here you can buy a booster pack. You can buy one every 24 hours. It has a decent chance of an epic, so that could, you know, basically a Hail Mary if you get one. And sometimes you can also get some rarer cards that can help you complete those badge sets, which might otherwise be very, very difficult. Either a boss drop, or there are actually monsters in the badge sets that don't exist in the game, or that cannot drop a card in the game. So that's the only way of getting them. So we typically avoid those sets if we're trying to build up. But also like save a buffer for the essences, so that you don't get into trouble if it's like, oh, there's a 24-hour double experience event. You're like, oh, I want to go hard. I've got like 6 totems lying around, but my familiars are going to expire like 3 hours in. You know, that would be rough. So I would always keep a little bit of a buffer there. And it has some more advice, and then once you start fusing them together, you basically need to be training in areas where they actively drop for longer extended periods of time, and then you can start what's called fusing, and then when you fuse them to a higher rarity, you basically get, there's no, well, there are, but in non-reboot, but in reboot we don't have like cubes for familiars, so you just reveal them and what you see is what you get. If it's shitty, you can try to rank it up to the next one, and then you get it's like a tier up, right, on potential, then you can reveal it again. If that's shitty, then, you know, you're just shit out of luck. But then you look for things like, typically further you look for large drop rate, which is 100% drop rate by itself, and ignore. And then that will allow you to get even more cards, and then typically people start scaling up to unique familiars, and then you're looking for, you know, all of these lines. So other than the total outcomes, you can also see how drop rate stacks, you know, and what is small amount, what is large amount of both, like how much does that mean, which line is actually better. You can see all of that in the drop rate command here. And the last one is talks about the badges, because like I just said, like some badges are just horrible because it's not easy to get. Because you need 1 badge to unlock your 2nd slot, but then that's pretty easy, but then you need 10 total badges to unlock your 3rd slot. And to get the 10, that might be a little bit tricky. So as to not waste your time and going for the ones that might be super hard to get or impossible even to get, because at first glance you're like, oh, I just need this, you know, these are all easy, I just need to get this one. It might be a little bit harder, but might be impossible. So it's like a general tier list that I've made of which ones to go for. Yeah, I guess, does that explain your familiar question?
Yeah, that's good. And as far as like fusing or fodder, or however it's referred to, I imagine, do you start with like a rare card and fuse into that to make it epic? Or
yeah, you can look at the points, but basically only common and rare drop. And you want to start with the highest possible rarity that you can get your hands on, because it's really, really inefficient to make a common into a rare. It's not like you get, you know, 1 rare to drop for every 300 commons or something. It's more like 1 to 2, or like maybe 1 to 3 at worst. but to build up would be like 100 plus to 1. So yeah, efficiency-wise, you always start with a rare one. Let's say that you open up a booster pack and you actually get a epic one, and you reveal it, and it's a bad epic line. You could also use that as a basis to level it up to unique, because if it's a shitty potential, you're not losing anything there, but you're gaining a whole lot because you don't have to turn a rare into an epic.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds good. Forgot a question I was gonna ask, but for totems, the only totems I'm aware of right now, way back in the day, I remember doing like a Halloween event, and you get some dark totems, which seemed to be, they were quite nice. The ones I'm aware of right now are the Afterlands.
Yep.
Are those just kind of the standard ones that people do now?
Yeah, people do Afterlands, or they'll do U Garden, but that, you know, that requires upkeep, so people tend to just, if they care about totems, they'll do the Afterlands one just so they have it done. Again, I think it's one of those things that probably is more required, quote unquote, if you have like a more starter legion. Once your legion is big enough, I don't bother with totems at all. I just completely skip all that content. I kind of leave it as like a save it for a rainy day kind of thing. Like if everything is maxed out and Dark Lords of Darkness really doesn't come back, which right now we've been waiting 2 years on it, and it doesn't seem like it's going to be coming back. It might, but you know, no warning there. One time we got it back in February because people complained so much that it didn't come back, so they did the Halloween event in February to still give it to us, but that was like 2 years ago, February. I want to keep it more like for a rainy day and be like, okay, am I going to spend like 5 bill on flames now, or I'm just going to do Afterlands and get the same results, you know? And then you can kind of keep it as an ace up your sleeve to still make some gains. But other than that, yeah, I mean, I did go decently hard at the event when it was around, so I do have a bunch of characters with okay totems, but you know, the newer classes, you know, none of them have anything there. But yeah, basically Afterlands. There's a link to Afterlands in the chat as well, because there is it's kind of weird content, and you can kind of get stuck as well if you don't know what you're doing, so it'll just help you get through the content faster.
Yeah, I did it once on Icona. I think it took maybe 45 minutes. Who knows if that was efficient or not, but it wasn't too bad.
Yeah, we talked about it yesterday. Someone said like 45 minutes to an hour probably to get it done. I imagine closer to an hour. If you've done it a bunch of times, you can probably do it closer.
Yeah. Are we about half an hour left, or where are we at? I'm just trying to.
Oh yeah, almost 25 minutes, a little bit less than that. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I know a lot of these are kind of just basic questions. So
sure.
Maybe in the future, I'd be happy to do one of these again. But I also enjoy watching the videos. It's fun to watch you go through these.
Oh, you get to be in one.
Yeah. Yeah. Hopefully, I don't sound like garbage on a stream. But
hopefully not. No.
Trying to think things I do daily, because that's probably one of the big things. Maybe I'll save the main for another day. I'm just gonna feel that one out probably a little bit myself.
Sure.
See what I like. But honestly, the Adele is probably next. I got to get something to 200 to start pushing some symbols, because that's a large system to progress with.
Yeah, and it's an easy. It's a path of least resistance kind of thing. Adele for me was at the point just too boring, because I'd already gone through the whole thing and had all the funding, so it was just too strong. Like it was literally just like jump attack, jump attack, jump attack. Oh, I'm level 220, nice. But it does help you, like you said, it does help you get to that point where the game becomes more challenging and becomes more fun. It just helps you get to that point faster. So, you know, I kind of try to block that first part out of my memory and have that not like infect the whole class negatively. Because now I can just do content that I want to be able to do, and I can, you know, get a little bit more challenge out of it. So, you know, you kind of just get to skip ahead on the Adele, I guess.
Yeah, I've heard like mixed opinions on it, and you know, I'd like to say that I'd play the class I like the most, but sometimes you do kind of have to, when you're starting out, play that class that's a little bit stronger to help you get to where you want to be. At least that's maybe where my mindset's right now.
Yeah, especially because if you want to, you can start like exchanging carries and stuff like that, and that can set you up for progressing your account much faster.
So something that I've realized is I've had a little bit more free time right now, transitioning jobs after university. So I've been playing a little bit more Maple, between that and nesting for the new baby. I don't think I've been very efficient with my time throughout the day for
Mhm.
what I'm doing. Like, I think I've been doing normal Zikun too many times on too high of characters
Okay.
for boss crystals that aren't worth anything, hardly. So I did come across one of your resources of like in what level range, what content you probably should prioritize.
Mhm.
So I guess I almost want to stop making some of like my pennies with the mesos and actually spend more of my time doing the Legion to like get the most bang for your buck right now.
Yep.
I guess it's just trying to find a happy medium. Like
Mhm.
even with everything I do, my 2 times Ursus is still about half my mesos during the day for 5 minutes. And Maple Tour probably
Yeah.
makes up the other 30%.
Yeah, roughly, yeah. Uh-huh.
I guess I've been delaying making the Adele because I spend, 5 hours doing a bunch of things that maybe I shouldn't be doing.
But did you enjoy doing it?
No, it's a little bit grindy. I'm trying to find like a good analogy for it. Like, it's like I'm collecting pop cans on a highway.
Okay. Well, when it comes to Legion, there will always be some characters that are just feel like obligations, and you kind of just, turn off your brain and just roll your face on your keyboard and try to get them to the level that they need to get to. But it's important to kind of, when you get onto a character, to kind of classify it as like, okay, this is a brain dead, whatever. This one is low priority, so maybe I can just skip it altogether. This one only, is relevant at high levels, so maybe I just give that a mega burn. If the level 2 link skill is good enough, maybe I give it a terra burn if I eventually want to get to a level 3 link, or make it a boss mule, possibly a combination. That would be nice. And these characters I actually enjoy, so once I get to 140, I'm just going to leave them there. I'm going to slowly fund them and then level them up to 200 myself, because I will actually enjoy doing that. And these other characters, I can get them to 140, I absolutely hate them, or get into 141 and just throw like extreme growth potions on them so that eventually they get to 200, and then maybe in the super distant future get to 210. As long as every character, when you're playing them, you kind of think of what category can I put these guys into and what is going to be the future for this character, then, once an opportunity arises, once a Terra Burn event goes around, once extreme growth potions come around, or once you have like a little bit more time because maybe you don't have a totem on your main, or maybe just don't feel like committing that amount of time, you can just fuck around on a side character a little bit. And that's another thing, once some of the resources start trickling down onto your character. So if you have a list of like 3 characters, let's say that the Demon Avenger, Demon Slayer, you would actually be okay with just training them all the way up to 200. And you would want to get them eventually to 210 because they've got really solid link skills, right? Once you don't really need your flames anymore on your, let's say your top 2 characters, you have a few characters over 200, let's say, maybe the Adele and the Wildhunter are both at like 210. Once a flame has like more of a chance of ruining one of your items than actually making it better, you start trickling things like Monster Crossman cubes, like flames, down onto those characters that you want to train as them eventually. And once you get to a point where you're like, okay, my WSE is like good, epic, or even unique, I've got like okay flames on all of my boss accessory pieces now, I can level this guy now, like it'll be way less resistant now. And then that character can, rear its head and get to the higher level point. And that's how you want to see like your whole account basically like as one moving organism, and not just as separate blocks, separate Tetris blocks that happen to be on the same field.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. That row that you're seeing right now with the Mercedes through the Luminous, usually all I do for those during the day is I log on, I go find a 2x rune, and then I do Zac, and then I get off it. So it just, it passively gains like a level or 2 a day for 2 minutes a time. Except the people who are probably mad that I jump in their map and take a rune quick.
If you take it well,
Maybe
people
that's
are in the map,
right.
that's maybe a little bit toxic, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Well, usually what I do is I don't even do that, because when I think about it, and I think about if you're really just doing it for time efficiency, how long do you spend finding the rune, and how long do you spend killing Zakum?
That's a fair point.
If in that same time
maybe
that you're
check
looking for a
5.
rune, you can do 1 or 2 more characters Zakum, now you've gotten 3 times the experience versus 2 times the experience with the rune, right? And you didn't steal someone's rune. But
Yeah, I know.
the scalability there is pretty big. Also, remember, if you're killing Zakum, don't kill the body too quickly, right? Because the arms will disappear. You're familiar with that part?
Yep. Yeah, I usually try not to take somebody's room.
Yeah, no, I'm just joking. I hope you don't.
Somebody's like,
not like a ninja going around like yoink.
yeah, didn't see my name out there. Well, we're all not perfect. Yeah, right now I kind of want to get that Mercedes up to 141 so I can start throwing some growth potions at it.
Mm-hmm. You're a little bit more quiet, by the way. I think you're a little bit further from the microphone.
Oh, sorry about that. A little bit better?
Yeah, it's a little bit better, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, sorry. I'm trying to get the Mercedes up to 141 to make use of this event's growth potions.
Yep.
I don't mind the character, but it's not my favorite to train.
I heard that before, don't worry.
The quicker I can get it to, is it 210 for the third? Or the,
Level
the last
3, yeah.
iteration of the link skill?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then when 0 comes back, get that guy going, fingers crossed for that to, be sooner rather than later.
Yeah, we hope with Destiny update, usually with the big updates, seasonal updates, usually they come back, so hopefully.
Even Beast Tamer might as well.
Yep, hopefully, yeah. Usually they're together, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so hopefully get those guys going. I just finished the Iran and the Evan. Got both of those guys up to at least, make the most out of those ruins and stuff. But
yeah, the level 2 links are just, like you said before, in beginning it's power in numbers. If you can just churn out a whole group of 60s, then you have your 3k Legion. Get them all to 70s, all of the level 1 links start kicking in. And if you can get them all to 100, then, the free Zakum levels just start raining on you all the way until you get them all to 140, and then basically you're at a 6k Legion, you have the whole board available. That's kind of the mechanical approach to it. If it's something that you just don't really appreciate doing, or it's seen more as a job rather than as something that's enjoyable to you, then you can always fall back on that plan. That requires minimal amount of funding on the characters, which means maximum amount of money taking out of. And like you mentioned with like making the money and stuff, it will really only start coming once your main character is, in the beginning all your Legion coins goes into upgrading your grid as well, right? So you can't really buy any of the Legion wealth. You don't even want to buy the Legion wealth because you can't really optimize using them because you probably don't even have enough drop rate to always get a bag to drop, right? So you have lower efficiency. So you just want to make sure that your meso drop rate and your meso obtain start rolling, which means that you want to invest the amount of funds to get your WSE at least to unique, maybe even to legendary, which means you want to know that you're going to commit to the character long enough, which means you probably have to at least be like 215 to 220 around that point, knowing that you really like the character and you want to go forward with it, right? That's kind of how as an accordion that's like connected together. You can't really have one without the other. But yeah, hopefully the characters will become more enjoyable as your Legion and your Link skills grow, because it'll bring out the inner power of your characters. Some characters do it more easily, like an Adele doesn't really need a whole big Legion to function, but some other classes might need that help from, like the Phantom Link and the Demon Avenger damage and all of the if you're trying to boss like the Demon Slayer and the Luminous. And that's why I've got that Legion and Link skill grid, right?
Yeah. Yep, I definitely took a look at that. It was a little bit sad to see Kaiser at the very, very bottom. But
yeah, in terms of utility, it's just not there, yeah. Maybe if their Link skill changes one day, then anyone except for Demon Avenger and maybe Endgame Kana can benefit a little bit from that, but yeah.
I don't mind leveling the Legion. Like, I still enjoy playing the game, and it has a goal. Like, it still makes the main stronger, and
yeah, exactly.
But, pacing it out, level like a couple 60s a day. Don't spend your whole day doing it.
Yeah. If you're doing more than one, that's already a decent amount. Usually I tell people, like, if you can just do one a day, that means within a month you'll have your, you'll have your 40 characters basically because people don't usually start with 0. And then if you, slowly get them all up to 70, and you've got some characters going up to 70, some doing Zakum, some getting growth potions, the amount of Legion levels you gain is just insane. As long as you're just steady progress, you'll get there, don't try to... Some people try to rush out like a 6k Legion in 3 weeks and actually, or 2 or 3 weeks and actually do that, but then they're completely burned out and they're like, oh, an event, it's such a good event, but I don't feel like playing anymore because I play too much. Like, that's always sad to see that people try to, take on a little bit too much. But it seems like you got a good idea for pacing. I guess the money will feel like it's not really flowing because of that, right? Because it's going to go towards new characters, towards the character slots and all that stuff. And the Zakum crystals are not going to sell for a whole bunch,
No, but I kind of wanted to get out of the mentality of trying to get 60 crystals on every character every week.
Yeah, you want to get away from that for sure, because like you mentioned, that is inefficient. Sometimes I try to tell people this, like, if you're trying to min-max in one system, a lot of times that means you're not min-maxing anymore within the whole system. If you're trying to get every single character in your account to get the 60 crystals every week, you are taking away so much potential gain, because the main gain right now is in growing your Wildhunter and in finding another character that you want to take far into the game while growing your Legion. And there's not as much pressure on those characters yet, so you can take that time to put it onto your Legion instead, and that is funding your entire account, so that is good value.
I guess as we wrap up today, just in your opinion, for good next steps to make, in addition to going with the Legion a little bit and just progressively getting that up to probably 6K, and then I'll progress it a little bit as I go. I'm finishing expanding character slots until I can just get all those set, and I think I probably want to get the Wildhunter to 210, start getting those arcane symbols, just so that he'll eventually be a bossing meal. He's still fun. One day in the future, he might get a little rework a little bit. Probably want to start getting that Adele or whatever main I'd like to do to 200 to start passively progressing him through dailies.
Yep.
Anything that you would suggest, or does that sound reasonable?
Yeah. Well, I don't have like all the info of your equips, so we can kind of see what you've got going here. Yeah, you don't have to go as hard on the rings, I would say. I think you can probably skip event rings when it comes to the Wildhunter, but if you know that you are going to try the Adele, I would say try to get at least like 1 or 2 rings for the, of the event rings for the Adele or any other character that you are planning to maybe take a little bit further. Especially the synergy ring, right? Because by itself it's kind of weak, but it does increase in stats as you have more characters in your account equipping it, and it is pretty cheap, right? Even if you just cap on Sundays, for example, on the points, that way you will be able to afford at least 1, but probably 2 event rings on all the relevant characters. So that'll help quite a bit with just mid-level funding, because those rings are perfect. They're basically equivalent to 17-star rings, so you can kind of like skip ahead on that part. You don't have to worry about the star forcing anymore, and you can get straight to the potentials, which is what you want for the rings eventually anyway, right? Either you get a decent amount of stats on it on epic or unique, or you get it all the way to legendary for those utility lines.
Okay.
The other stuff is like when it comes to spending the money is definitely have a long-term plan and look at the sunny Sundays and look what's coming up. So if I look at your account right now, like, okay, you went through the Sweetwater accessories a little bit faster. Back in the day, everyone was, like jerking off how great those Sweetwater accessories were, and kind of completely losing sight of how good the boss accessories are. One main thing is, I'm getting a little bit of echo from you, but the boss accessories comparatively got better because of flames, right? So you can hold on to those quite long. I would say once you start phasing them out, because you're getting everything to 17, and you're working on the superior set and everything, then it's a good idea for the Sweetwater stuff to come in. So I usually go into it a little bit later. I am totally fine with leaving everything epic and getting 6 or 9% on there, and then on the items you want to specifically go, either get stuck on unique because you get really good unique potentials, or go all the way to legendary. I would typically not have a lot of unique pieces in an equip, so like as advice for the next character, because mostly when you go to unique you're stuck to like 9 or 12, and 9 or 12 are also like okay to get on epic, but if you are planning to make that jump, I would go all the way to legendary and then aim for like 21-24 percent, and then you make those to really capitalize on spending of money. And if you get an okay roll on unique, you just keep unique, and then you can start trickling down Master Craftsman cubes to your next characters, like I mentioned before.
Okay, yeah, that sounds reasonable. Yeah, I know I didn't do this guy very efficient back in the day.
No, yeah, I'm not like trying to shit on it now because it's from a long, long time ago, and you know, different times, different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is back when like Blackgate was going on, where you've got a Phantom with Arrow Platter or a Kana.
Yeah,
just circling the map.
Yeah, just botters just setting up in your map and then just going AFK, and you're like, oh, okay, well, I guess I can't get race anymore now. Like, it was a very different time, yeah. But yeah, for this character, I would get the emblem, right, the level 100 emblem, and upgrade that. That'll be a big gain. The secondary you can keep, or I would definitely re-roll it for percentage attack instead of percentage damage. That'll just scale better. Yeah, maybe get the weapon to epic, but it depends. If you're planning on getting carried for C-Val, then it's, you know, the less you invest, the better, I guess. But if you're wanting to do C-Val yourself, then the weapon probably will need a little bit of love in terms of potential until you can kill C-Val and then switch into the Fafnir and then go hard in the Fafnir weapon for this character. Other than that, I'm imagining that then the flame on the weapon will be the next priority, and possibly the flame on your Tyrant Cape or your Cup. I'm thinking that both of those are probably not amazing.
Yeah,
and then
you would be correct. I think the Cup might just have like a 5, or I think it's like 4% all stats, and then.
Yeah, judging by the color, it doesn't have big numbers, so it's probably all stat, maybe attack. You can still get like 6 attack, 6 all stat, which is like insanely good, and it'll still look bad, but like the odds that it's specifically that is pretty low, so it's a pretty educated guess there. Everything else that's epic, at least a 6%, maybe a 9 if you have a lot of occult cubes, but be careful for trying to roll for 9 on higher level equips, because the reroll cost adds up very, very quickly. But it will mostly be determining whether you actually do want to stick to the character, and then you can go into, you know, legendary accessories and stuff. If not, then the character is probably where you want it to be roughly to be able to be a solid bossing mule. You could probably get the badge up to unique. Badges are in a league of their own together with hearts, where they have the least amount of junk lines of any items in the game. So they will be the most efficient in tiering up and getting to good potentials if you ever want to push further.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds good. I have to remember where to go and buy the level 100 emblem to get rid of that boss arena one.
I think that's usually a quest line, so check your quest bulb for quests around level 100, and you might just get a free one.
Okay. That sounds good. Yeah, I know a lot of these videos are probably from people, or usually from people who are probably a little bit more experienced. So, but hopefully it's also helpful for some people that have silly questions like myself.
Yeah, well, people who haven't played in a long time, you don't know which one of your questions are super valid and which ones are like, what do I do here? But no, all of your questions are pretty on point. You seem to have been reading up quite a bit already and looking at stuff before getting in here, so nothing was super crazy.
Okay. Well, I won't keep it too long. I know that we have maintenance for a little while longer, but probably should get some stuff done around the house. I will try and shoot a message probably on my Kana or Wildhunter to the Mule Guild. You know, just hang out a little bit, and you know, maybe one day I'll make it up to 230 and become a contributing part of the society.
Yeah, who knows? Yeah, maybe you can start carrying your own weight. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I'm not going to be opposed to a C-Val carry if people are offering, but eventually I'll get the Wildhunter, but he'll probably get parked there for a while. Yeah, I think that is pretty much all I have right now.
Okay, good. Yeah, if anything specific leading, pertaining to the stuff comes up, you can hit me up on Discord, or, I'm always available for questions in the chat, so that's always possible. I'll upload it to YouTube so you can watch it back there. And yeah, if you need anything else, just to put in the command in the chat, and then you get most of your information there. But if you have follow-up questions, and always willing. And since you are coming back for a while, if you see anything that doesn't make sense to you, or it's not really logical in how I've written it in the commands, always let me know so I can make it be more palatable for people coming back, because it's mostly for new players and returning players, so it's got to make sense for you guys, otherwise it's kind of useless. So let me know if there's anything I can improve.
I think just one closing question would be, if you have a chance and would mind taking just like a snip of maybe what your keyboard looks like. I'd be curious to see like where you just lay everything out. I've been taking a little look to see what works for me, but what I have now isn't going to be a long-term thing.
Yeah, see if I remember. Either message it to me in Discord, or just ask me when the game is back up, and then I'll because otherwise I think I'll forget, because I can't do it right now, and then
I'll shoot you a message.
Yeah, I'll just get lost. Okay, no problem. Cool. I can do that.
All right. Well, thanks again for this, and maybe in the future I'll set one up. Maybe we'll do a gear progression. I feel like I might benefit from a second video when I'm at a different point in the game, because obviously right now we're just talking about basic features, getting back up to date and so forth. But maybe it'll be a more fun conversation for you.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, I'm down for whatever. So if you feel like you need that, and I can help you with that, then gladly.
Cool. Well, thank you again, and I will catch you in game.
Yes, no worries, and good luck with everything, and see you around.
All right, take care.
All right, bye. Cool. How did the call go? It went great, Discord. Thank you for asking. All right, so yes, for people who are new or returning, but clearly this guy had already seen some of the videos and gone through some of the resources and wasn't coming completely out of the blue. I think solid session, solid questions. Seemed to understand a lot of the underlying mechanics, and hopefully a lot of the advice at the end, specific advice, made a lot of sense considering everything we talked about in the video before. Finding a main is tricky, especially when you have 50 classes and you haven't played in a long time, because even the classes you think you knew might be completely different. In the last 4 years might have undergone dramatic transformations, especially if you're going to come back in about 2 months after this video and Destiny is hit and we really get the Explore Redux and all the other character balancing. Classes might be completely different than what you imagine, so you might have to just give them an open-minded try all the way from scratch again. But yeah, let me know if this was interesting to you and if you learned something. Or if you saw something that we might have messed up and you want to correct, always open to feedback as well. As always, if you want to win one of these sessions, make sure you leave a comment on the YouTube video saying that you would like to win. And if you don't want to wait, there is also links in the description on how you can request one of these sessions with me. I will be drawing the winners from April soon, so keep an eye out for that. I'll be hitting you guys up. And other than that, that's it for me, I guess. So thank you for watching. Catch me live on twitch.tv/Scardor, or I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.